June 9th, 2026 will mark the 20th anniversary of the release of the first Cars movie and the franchise as a whole. 2026 is a big year for Cars fans. It's not only the 20th anniversary of the movie, it's also the 20th anniversary of the massive diecast line. And to celebrate both, I'm starting a new series here on the channel that I'm calling 20 Years of Favorites, where each week for the next 20 weeks, I'll be reviewing my personal favorite Cars diecast item in my collection from each year of the toy line. I'm starting today because, well, 20 weeks from now is the week that June 9th is in, so we're 20 weeks away from the week of the 20th anniversary. I'll be releasing one episode of this series covering each year every Monday until that week, and I'm very, very excited to go back through the long history of the Cars diecast line and pick out my personal favorite item in my collection from each year. Now, 2006 was honestly kind of easy for me to pick a car from, but also kind of difficult. This year, of course, just gave us all of our main characters and a couple of variants. They're all items that we're so used to seeing, it's hard to go through them and go, oh yeah, this one's my favorite, this one's my favorite. Of course, we do have one insanely weird and unique item from 2006, that being Rolling Bowling Mater, which I almost picked as my favorite from this year. In fact, I saw a comment on my video last night where I saw someone speculating that I would pick Rolling Bowling Mater, and while I almost did, I don't think that item is my favorite from 2006. It's certainly the most interesting one, but my personal favorite item from the Cars diecast line from 2006 just has to be Dinoco Lightning McQueen. Dinoco McQueen is one of those designs that's just objectively cool. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone who actively dislikes Dinoco McQueen, quite frankly. This is a diecast that's just so cool and based on such a cool design and concept. Of course, in the context of the first Cars movie, this guy only appears in a dream sequence that McQueen has while he's stuck in Radiator Springs, while he's off daydreaming about what it would be like winning the Dinoco sponsorship. In the movie, this design kind of represents what McQueen wants, but what we, as the audience, don't want, right? Our goals aren't supposed to be aligned with McQueen, as we're supposed to be rooting for him to improve as a character, something that of course happens by the end of the film when he rejects the Dinoco sponsorship in the end. And while that all is true, the Dinoco McQueen design is just so cool, and its prominence in the movie, mixed with just how objectively awesome it is, has led it to be basically the go-to secondary McQueen paint job for many, many years in a lot of different toy lines and other pieces of media. Back in 2006, this was one of the first ever McQueen diecast variants. This was the third McQueen ever released in the toy line, following the regular McQueen single and Dirt Track McQueen. This guy was released in a later wave of singles in 2006. One of the only character variants out this year. Again, one of the first ever McQueen variants, one of the first ever character variants in the entire toy line, starting a legacy of so many characters, getting so many different variants. We've seen Dinoco McQueen in so many places. The Plastic Mini Adventures line. Pretty sure he had a Micro Drifter, a Mini Racer. He has several different Mini Racer variants. We've seen him as an alternate costume in video games, even as recently as Rocket League. One of McQueen's alternate looks was Dinoco McQueen. This is one of the go-to designs for different lines, games, other places. Everyone knows and loves Dinoco McQueen, and I think it's easily my personal favorite item from 2006. So let's take a closer look here. Dinoco McQueen is an incredibly cool design, but he's also a pretty simplistic one. At its core, it's basically just a color swap of McQueen, changing him from red with yellow highlights to blue with lighter blue highlights, and of course swapping his Rust-eze logos out for Dinoco logos. But there are also a few other changes For example, his secondary sponsors are gone, which I think is supposed to sort of represent McQueen being more of an evolved racer. He doesn't need contingency sponsors anymore. He's racing for Dinoco now. He's in the big leagues. It's his big dream sponsor. We, of course, have the iconic Dinoco logo there on the hood. And speaking of iconic, this McQueen has that iconic original Lightning McQueen facial expression. If this were released today, it would definitely have a new face. This is something that I've stressed a lot in my diecast history series. Very early on in the Cars diecast line, for the first couple of years, characters getting different facial expressions was very, very, very hard to come by. In fact, none of the diecast variants we got in 2006 had new facial expressions, and with the exception of Cruz and McQueen, who is an entirely new mold, right, none of them in 2007 had new faces either, I don't think. It took a little while for us to start getting characters with new facial expressions, so a lot of your early McQueens just have this standard face, and honestly, I think it really does still hold up as a good, solid McQueen face. It really just feels in character for the character. Maybe we've gotten some other McQueen diecasts over the years with more accurate expressions, but I think this really does just look like McQueen, and I don't just think that's me saying that because, you know, we've been used to this for the last 2 decades now, which is so crazy to say. Got the 95 there on the headlights. He's still wearing his lucky stickers. I do like that some elements of McQueen's personality stay, of course. We have the classic Lightning McQueen lightning bolt design, but now it's blue with a sort of lighter to darker blue fade and all those little dots on the inside. Dinoco logo there. Again, he doesn't have his contingency sponsors anymore. Number 95. Lightning McQueen writing right there on either side of the roof with his signature. Unfortunately, one of the biggest grievances people have with the diecast is the lack of Dinoco logo on his spoiler. While several variants of this McQueen have gotten that over the years, unfortunately, the original doesn't have that, and it's something that's never been corrected. The other big issue people have with this item is just how long it's been since we last saw it. This McQueen was last released as a single in 2015, and then he came back in the McQueen boxes very briefly in like 2017, 2018. For an item that is one of the most famous, well-known McQueen variants, it really is a shame that we haven't seen this guy in quite a while. I thought 2026 would be the perfect year to bring him back. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's happening, but I feel like we can't go too much longer with this guy gone from the line. It's been almost a decade. Dinoco logo there on the back with the 95 on the backlight as well. There is a look at the other side. And finally, there is a look at the base. So there you have it, guys. Dinoco Lightning McQueen, my personal favorite item from 2006. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite Cars diecast from 2006 is. And tune in next week to the next episode of 20 Years of Favorites, where I'll be taking a look at my personal favorite item from 2007. It's going to be pretty interesting. 2006 is the only year where I own every single item. I own every diecast released in 2006. So from now on, it's going to be my favorite out of the items I have. I have everything from 2007 except for the shrunken down TJ. But, you know, after 2007, it's going to be a bit more interesting to see what I pick. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching the first episode of the series. I hope you enjoyed. Happy 20th anniversary, Cars, and I will see you guys next time. Bye now.